My mother cut my hair while I was sleeping, and she did it because she didn't want me to look better than my sister at her wedding tomorrow. The words hit me like a slap, and for a second, I couldn't even process what had just happened. Half my hair was gone, and my sister was filming it, laughing like it was some kind of joke. But I wasn't laughing. Not this time. I could feel the years of being second best, of always being overlooked and controlled, all boiling over. And I wasn't going to let it slide anymore. I grabbed my phone, hit record, and calmly asked them to explain themselves. This wasn't just a haircut. This was a message. And I was done playing their game. I woke up to the cold sensation of metal against my scalp. I blinked my eyes open, disoriented, trying to make sense of what I was feeling. Then I saw her, my mother, standing above me with scissors in her hand. Half of my hair was already gone, scattered across the pillow like some twisted confetti. I froze for a moment, not sure if I was dreaming or still in some nightmare. But the weight of the scissors, the sharp sound as she snipped away the strands, told me it was real. "What are you doing?" My voice came out groggy, but it was laced with confusion and fear. It took a second for my brain to catch up, but when it did, the reality hit me like a punch in the gut. She smiled down at me, not an apologetic smile, not a worried one, but a cold, satisfied grin, like she had just solved a problem. "You can't look better than Megan at her wedding tomorrow," she said, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. My stomach twisted in knots. This wasn't just a haircut. It wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate. Megan, my sister, was standing in the doorway, holding her phone and laughing, capturing the moment as if it were some kind of joke. She wasn't concerned. She wasn't worried. She thought this was funny. It wasn't the first time Megan had been cruel, but it was the first time I could see it so clearly, without the veil of family loyalty blinding me. I couldn't speak for a moment, the shock leaving me paralyzed. My mother was cutting my hair while I was asleep, and she was justifying it with the idea that I shouldn't look better than Megan at her wedding. And Megan? She was filming it, laughing. I felt a wave of anger rising inside me. How could they do this to me? Why was I always treated like I didn't matter? I couldn't let them see me break. I couldn't give them the satisfaction of a dramatic outburst. They wanted me to cry, scream, react so they could play it off like I was being overly sensitive. No, I wasn't going to give them that. Instead, I reached for my phone on the nightstand. My hand was shaking, but I hit record and held it steady. I needed them to explain themselves. I needed this on camera. "Explain yourself," I said, my voice calm, colder than I felt. Megan stopped laughing for a moment, her smile faltering when she saw the phone pointed at her. My mother's grin slipped, replaced by a harder, more dangerous look. "Put that down, Grace," she said, her voice turning sharp. "No, I want you to explain why you're cutting my hair while I sleep," I said, keeping the phone trained on her. "Explain how this is okay." My heart was pounding, but my voice remained steady. I wasn't going to let them manipulate me again. I wasn't going to be their punching bag anymore. Growing up, I was always the second choice. Megan was the golden child. She had the beauty, the charm, the effortless grace that our mother adored. And I was always in the background. I didn't have my mother's features. I wasn't the one everyone noticed. So I learned to shrink, to step aside, to keep my head down. The comparisons were constant. Megan got the better clothes, the better bedroom, the better opportunities. When she wanted dance lessons, my mom drove her 3 times a week. When I wanted piano lessons, my mom said it was too expensive, even though Megan's dance tuition was twice as much. "You're more practical," my mom would say, like it was a consolation prize. Megan has a gift. It was a gift I didn't have. It was a love I couldn't earn. And for years, I accepted it. I accepted being ignored, being the invisible one in our family. But now, as my mother stood over me with scissors and Megan filmed it all, I realized something. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't going to let them tear me down anymore. I wasn't going to let them control me, humiliate me, or make me feel like I wasn't worth anything. I was done. The moment my mother's hand started shaking, I knew I had to act. I kept the camera on her, my face unreadable. This wasn't just about hair. This was about respect, about showing them that I wouldn't stand for it anymore. And for the first time in my life, I was doing it for me. I didn't hesitate. After the confrontation, I went straight to my apartment, packed my things, and drove to the nearest salon. But before I could even process what had happened, I posted the video. I wanted it to be seen. I needed the world to know what had really happened. I didn't add any commentary. No tearful confession, no music to make it seem dramatic. It was just raw, unfiltered truth. My mother cutting my hair while I slept, her cold justification for it, Megan laughing behind the camera. The video went viral within hours. By morning, it had over 2 million views. I couldn't keep up with the notifications. My phone was buzzing nonstop. Messages of support flooded in, but so did harsh criticism. Some people called me brave, others called me pathetic. But the one thing I noticed? People were talking. They couldn't look away. And for the first time, I felt a shift, like I had control of something for once. The impact was immediate. People began to dig into Megan's wedding. The venue got bombarded with one-star reviews. There were threats against the photographer, Sandra Chun, who had no idea what she was walking into when she agreed to photograph Megan's wedding. By noon, she had posted a public statement, distancing herself from the event. Her words were careful, polite, but there was no mistaking the message. We are no longer affiliated with the Henderson Miller wedding. We wish all parties the best, but cannot in good conscience continue our professional relationship. It was surreal. I had no idea the video would spiral this way. I thought people might sympathize, but I didn't realize it would trigger something so massive. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about holding up a mirror to a family that had been manipulating me for years. I never thought I could do that. And here I was, watching the dominoes fall. Megan's bridesmaids began dropping out, one by one. I got screenshots of their group chats, where they expressed shock and disgust at what they had seen. One of them said, "We thought it was a joke when Megan told us about cutting Grace's hair, but now we've seen the video. We can't support this." Another said, "She's your sister. How could you laugh about something like that?" I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction. They thought they could humiliate me, make me feel small, but they were the ones who were being exposed. They were the ones who had to face the consequences of their actions. And it was all out there for the world to see. But it didn't feel like revenge. Not at first. It felt like liberation. For so long, I had been invisible, living in Megan's shadow, constantly compared to her, quietly absorbing whatever my family threw my way. The moment I posted that video, I stopped being invisible. I wasn't just the quiet, practical daughter anymore. I had a voice, and I wasn't afraid to use it. By the time I saw the messages from my dad, it was already too late to turn back. He called me, his voice strained, like he had been holding his breath the whole morning. "Grace, what did you do? Your mother is hysterical. Megan's wedding is falling apart. Half the guests have canceled. The venue is threatening to pull out. Are you happy now? Is this what you wanted?" I didn't even respond at first. I just let the silence hang between us. Then I finally said, "Did you watch the video, Dad?" Silence on the other end. I could hear him breathing, his voice softer now. "I saw it," he said, almost reluctantly. "But she's your mother, Grace. Couldn't you have handled this privately? Why did you have to put it online for the world to see?" I let out a sigh, trying to stay calm. She filmed it first. She and Megan were both filming it. They were going to post it themselves. They just didn't expect me to beat them to it. There was no response after that. Just more silence. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just about my family anymore. It wasn't just about me being humiliated or hurt. It was about the truth. I had shared the truth, and that was the only thing that mattered. It was freeing, in a way I couldn't explain. The pain of everything they had done to me wasn't gone, but it was easier to carry when I didn't have to hide it anymore. Megan texted me later that day. "You ruined the most important day of my life. I hope you're proud of yourself," she wrote. "You've always been jealous of me, and now you've finally shown everyone what kind of person you really are. I will never forgive you for this." I didn't even feel angry anymore. Instead, I just replied, "You were laughing while Mom assaulted me in my sleep. I just let people see who you really are. That's not revenge. That's just the truth." She didn't respond after that. I didn't expect her to. The truth was too much for her to handle. The wedding still happened, but it was nothing like what Megan had envisioned. Guests dropped like flies, the venue canceled, and everything was hastily moved to my parents' backyard. The wedding was a disaster, a shell of what it should have been. But for me, it was the start of something new. For the first time in my life, I had stood up for myself. And no matter what happened next, I knew I wasn't going back to who I was before. After everything had exploded, I did what I knew I needed to do. I went to a high-end salon, determined to fix the damage to my hair, not just physically, but mentally. When Michelle Tran, the stylist, saw what had happened. Her eyes widened. She didn't flinch, though. She just took a deep breath and said, "Let's make this work." As she worked through my hair, cutting it into a chic pixie cut, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: care. The kind of care I'd never received from my family, from the people who were supposed to love me. Every snip, every adjustment, felt like an act of reclaiming control. This wasn't just about fixing a bad haircut. It was about reclaiming my autonomy, my right to choose how I looked, how I felt. The transformation wasn't just on the outside. It was something deeper. It was the first time I felt truly seen, not just as someone's daughter or sister, but as myself. As Michelle added the final touches, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. The woman looking back at me was strong, confident, and, for once, unapologetically herself. I smiled, not just because of how I looked, but because for the first time, I could say I was taking charge of my life. But even as I started to feel more empowered, the fallout didn't stop. My father called, his voice filled with frustration, almost anger. "Grace, what did you do? This whole thing, it's destroying Megan's wedding. The guests are canceling, the venue is pulling out, and it's all your fault." I didn't react emotionally. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I stayed calm, letting him vent, and when he finally stopped, I spoke. "Dad, did you watch the video?" I asked, my voice steady but firm. "Did you see what they did to me? You're blaming me for exposing the truth? If you had seen what I saw, you'd understand." There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear him trying to process my words. "But this was supposed to be about Megan's day. You should have kept it private," he said, his tone quieter now. I could feel the weight of his disappointment, but it didn't affect me the way it used to. "Megan and Mom were the ones who filmed it first," I told him. "I just shared the truth. You should have been protecting me, Dad, not them." He didn't respond. I could hear him breathing, the tension in the air, and then he hung up. I didn't call back. I wasn't going to beg for his understanding anymore. Later, I got a message from Megan. It was exactly what I expected. "You ruined the most important day of my life. I hope you're proud of yourself. You've always been jealous of me, and now everyone knows what kind of person you really are." Reading that felt like a punch to the stomach, but not in the way it once would have. Megan had always played the victim, always managed to twist the narrative to make herself the one to pity. But this time, I wasn't going to let her. I wasn't going to be the villain in her story anymore. I took a deep breath before responding, keeping my voice level. "I'm not jealous, Megan. I'm just showing people what really happened. You were laughing while Mom cut my hair. You're the one who turned this into a joke. I didn't ruin your wedding. You did." I hit send and sat back, waiting for her reply. But it didn't come. Not that I expected it to. Megan had always run away from the truth, choosing to bury it under her fake smiles and charm. But I wasn't backing down anymore. The truth was out, and it wasn't going anywhere. As I stared at my phone, I realized something important. Posting that video wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about punishing them for everything they had done to me. It was simply about revealing the truth. It was about showing the world who they really were, without the carefully constructed masks they wore. I didn't need to fight back the way they expected me to. I didn't need to scream or lash out. The truth had done all the work for me. It had exposed them for what they were. And I didn't have to lift a finger beyond that. The chaos that followed didn't bother me like I thought it would. I wasn't running from it. I was moving forward. For the first time in my life, I felt in control. I wasn't hiding. I wasn't apologizing for existing in a way that made other people uncomfortable. I was just being me, and that was enough. And that was the lesson I'd learned through it all. Sometimes, the best way to deal with people who try to destroy you is to let the truth speak for itself. No need for drama. No need for revenge. Just let them hang themselves with their own lies. The fallout was inevitable. Megan's wedding, once the event she'd been dreaming of, fell apart in front of her eyes. The venue canceled, vendors withdrew, and the guests who hadn't already pulled out were now questioning everything. People weren't just talking about the wedding. They were talking about her, about how she had laughed at me, how she had stood by while my mother cut my hair in my sleep. The image of her smiling at my humiliation was no longer a private family moment. It was a public spectacle. Megan's friends started to turn on her. They saw the video and couldn't unsee it. The bridesmaids dropped out, one by one. I even heard that some of them had posted messages on social media, sharing their disgust with what they had witnessed. It was strange, in a way. This wasn't something I had set out to destroy. but everything I'd kept silent about for so many years seemed to unravel in a single day. For the first time in my life, I realized that silence doesn't protect you. Silence had kept me small, kept me invisible. It was a powerful tool for survival, yes, but at the cost of my dignity. By speaking out, I didn't just expose the truth, I set myself free. The damage wasn't just to Megan's wedding. It was to the facade my family had maintained for years. But the consequences didn't end there. My mother came to me. She showed up at my apartment, no warning, just appeared at my door one afternoon. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her face a mix of exhaustion and regret. "Grace, please, can we talk?" Her voice was shaky, filled with the desperation I hadn't heard in years. She looked like someone who had lost everything. She started apologizing, saying it was a mistake, that she had gotten caught up in the pressure of the wedding, that she wasn't thinking straight. I stood in the doorway, my heart a tangled mess of emotions. I'd spent my whole life trying to please her, trying to be enough. But now, as I looked at her, I realized something. I wasn't going to fix this for her anymore. "You can't fix this," I said quietly, but with more strength than I thought I had. Hair grows back, but trust doesn't. Her tears were quick, her words pleading, but they didn't reach me. Not anymore. What she had done, what we both had allowed for so long, couldn't be undone with tears. I had spent years absorbing her disappointment, her love that felt conditional, her constant comparisons to Megan. But I wasn't that person anymore. I couldn't afford to be. She begged me for forgiveness, talking about how everything in her life was falling apart because of what I had done. I didn't flinch. I didn't feel guilty. Instead, I felt free. Free from the weight of her expectations, free from the narrative she had always imposed on me. I knew, deep down, that this wasn't about fixing what had happened. It was about protecting myself from more hurt, from more betrayal. And I couldn't forgive her for not seeing me as I was, for never truly understanding the pain she had caused. Not this time. As for Megan, she never apologized, of course. Instead, she sent a mass email to the family, blaming me for ruining her wedding and accusing me of sabotaging everything for attention. She told everyone I had serious mental health issues, but most of them saw through her lies. Not everyone believed her version of events. Not when they saw the video. That was a strange comfort. Watching her try to rewrite the narrative, but failing. The truth had a way of speaking for itself, and no amount of manipulation could change that. What I realized, in the end, was that standing up for yourself isn't about making the other person pay. It's about refusing to let them make you feel small anymore. It's about setting boundaries. It's about realizing that your worth is not determined by how much someone else is willing to take from you. I still have moments when I wonder if I did the right thing, if the way I handled everything was the best way. But I no longer second-guess myself. I know now that the most important thing I could ever do was take back my power. The damage they caused doesn't define me. What I chose to do with it, how I chose to move forward, that's what matters. And as for my family, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if we'll ever heal. But I do know that I've stopped being the person they expected me to be. I stopped being the quiet, invisible daughter. I'm Grace now, no longer afraid of being seen, no longer afraid to stand tall, even if it means standing alone.